Happy Easter to everyone who celebrates, and welcome to Good Journeys Tarot. I am Rosemary, and you are watching the final episode of 78 Cards in 78 Weeks, where I have attempted to study each of the cards in the tarot and draft what I would like my cards to look like based on my life experience, as well as the various meanings of the card that have been associated over the years. Today, I have invited all of my prior guests back to just give a quick take on extra cards in the tarot. You know, the ones we're talking about. We're talking about those that aren't actual tarot cards. And they might be title cards, or they might be a brief description of the deck and the artist, and various other things. But sometimes they're actually extra cards the creator intended for you to use in the deck, whether they call them extra majors or they add extra cards of other varieties. So we're going to take a look at that with my guests today. So what is happening here right now? Right now, here at Good Journeys Tarot, I'm kind of winding down. This will probably be my last time on YouTube for a few months while I finish the guidebook and get the deck out for you guys and all of that good stuff. And I'm going to enjoy my Easter treat today. I was so excited to find these. They've started making all kinds of flavors of Peeps now, and they are just fabulous. I am looking forward to seeing if this is any good. Maybe we'll find out before the show is over. So my first guest that popped in today was Marieke Lexman, all the way from Ireland today. Welcome.
Hi, Rosemary. Congratulations with finishing the deck. That's so awesome.
Thank
Such
you.
an accomplishment.
Yes, it's been a long journey, almost 2 years total. And it's exciting to get to the end of it, though I still have a lot of work to do. And you know that as an author, right?
Yeah, it's never ending, I think. Yeah, but
So,
it's good times.
yeah. So, what are your thoughts on those extra cards people put in decks sometimes?
Um, for the longest time, I wondered if it was really necessary, but on the other end, I find that we shouldn't be stagnant in a situation, so we sometimes have to explore. And even though something exists for such a long time, it's maybe good to try something new. And I really had to think about it because in my books in the fantasy series, I actually added a card to the major arcana. So I thought long and hard about it, and I had decided on Unity because it's something that is following completion for me, but still, it's always, how is it natural? That's my question most of the time. But I think we still have to, experiment. So I
Absolutely.
see it from both ways, I think.
Sure. Well, historically, they have been due to printing and how cards were printed. And so there were always two extra blank cards when they printed 78. And so it just made sense for them to do things like title cards and, um, author description and that kind of thing. And a lot of people have continued that practice, especially when they're not going to do a guidebook of just adding a card that says, okay, here's a little bit about the deck and I kind of like that. A couple of things that they've done that I think are really exciting is like they'll add a spread.
I like that touch too.
Yeah,
Yeah, spreads,
yeah,
because that's also what I like in books sometimes, to get ideas
yeah,
or stuff like that that
yeah.
way.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of 78 Cards in 78 Weeks and for popping in today. I do appreciate it. I'm
Oh,
going to
you're so welcome, and congratulations again.
thank you. And now for my next guest. Oops. Mitchell Osborne is here. Welcome, Mitchell. Thank you for
Hello.
coming.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Well, first of all, congratulations as well. I mean, what an undertaking.
Yeah, it was a big project, and I'm looking forward to a little relaxation after this, though I suppose I don't get to relax quite as much as I would like with the guidebook and everything to be done. Yeah, but what are your thoughts on extra cards in the tarot?
So I enjoy them. I often will kind of pull them out depending on what deck and things like that. But I will tell you, you give me an extra card with the spread on it, and I'm in heaven. I love spreads. I love that structure. So if there's a couple cards with the spread on them, I will be using those for sure. And I did not bring these, but I did look it up to make sure I was saying the right Ciro Marchetti deck. But he put 4 palaces in Tarot of Dreams. So each suit has a palace. And I love when I leave them in and I pull them because it totally catches me off guard. And I'm forced in that moment to figure out what does that mean, either for the question that has been asked of this, that specific spot of the spread, or, what does it mean for that client, at that moment right now. So it kind of throws me in an uncomfortable place, and I like that.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, some of the other ways I've seen them used is a lot of times there'll be advertisements or telling you where to go to get more information, or even there will be like a numbered card or a thank you note from someone. I actually love that, and I forgot to pull it out. There's an extra card in the Crystal Unicorn Tarot called Donut Worry, which you had to get in person by doing a class with her and that type of thing. And Pamela Chen autographed it, so I have the author's autograph in my deck, with that Donut Worry card, which was basically a happy squirrel card, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Thank you so much for being part of 78 Cards in 78 Weeks and coming on today. I so appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. All right. Our next pop in today is the one and only Beverly Frayball. Beverly and I spent almost 2 years studying the tarot and other adjacent topics together before we ever met in person. And it was so great to get to share some drinks with you and chat over at StarCon. And
Yeah, it was. I was glad to see you again and have a live event finally after all this time of online work. So it was great.
absolutely, absolutely. And Beverly definitely challenged me over our conversations at night to get out there and do some things. And so we'll see if that bears any fruit. But I'm looking forward to the results. So, what are your thoughts on extra cards in the tarot when you see them?
I'm rather unorthodox to begin with, so I'm all for it.
Okay.
I like people to go with their gut when they're reading and pay less attention to historic or defined meanings if they're so inclined. Because I find a lot of times we read the same card in many different ways for a lot of different reasons. So the extra cards, to me, serve a purpose because they offer suggestions that wouldn't otherwise be there.
Sure. I have a couple of decks who actually do that.
Yeah.
For example, the 5 Cent Tarot, they have 4 additional majors that they added, the Beyond. And this deck actually had keywords on it. So it tells you how to think of it as the soul or as your higher being. And then they had the Unknown, which is the unhatched egg.
They're beautiful.
Which is called, they call Divine Faith. The Universe, which really to me is an alternate world card, in that it's about infinite growth according to them. And then there's also the Messenger, which I love the Raven. It's just pretty.
Yeah, those are beautiful cards. Very unique.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for being part of 78 Cards in 78 Weeks and for agreeing to pop on today and share your thoughts on the topic of extra cards.
I'm so happy for you. Congratulations on your deck.
Thank
Can't
you
wait to
so
see
much.
It. Yeah.
Yes. Well, you'll get to at the end of the show if you stay tuned.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
And now we're going to welcome Kate Murrah. Hi.
Hello.
How is your Sunday going?
My Sunday is going very well. It's morning time here on the west coast of Turtle Island, and waking up with you and some organic green tea before going to my farmer's market.
All right, wonderful.
Yeah.
So what is your
in the afternoon? Yes. Yes. Am I remembering the time zone correctly?
Yes, it's 1:15. What is your hot take on extra cards in the tarot?
For me, I love them when they are like I sort of similar to what Beverly said. I've always been a little different, and when you asked that question, I was thinking you were talking about like additional cards in the deck, not like front card, like the author cards or title cards or things like that.
Absolutely.
And my favorite deck that does that is Wise Fool Tarot. And what Cade Burkhammer did was created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Create 9 original cards. Okay. And Muggle is one that is before the Fool in the major arcana, because you have to get over the mundane ways of thinking and to even begin to go on a tarot journey. And then Cade added 4 fools for each of the suits. And I love how when I am reading with these, both the like explosions of color and such really feed the readings, because they're just so like active and specific. And I can't tell you how many times in readings this card has come up for somebody who really like either loved surfing or loved clowning. And then they did something different, and I haven't seen this done in other decks, and there are so many fantastic brains coming to celebrate the end of the completion of your deck. That I would love to hear if anybody knows of other decks that do stuff like this. But Cade sort of divided some of the cards into pairs. So the Devil has an A and a B with sort of the light and shadow side to it, or what society and capitalism have shifted things into from where they were before, and does that with the end of the major arcana as well. And I don't know of any other decks that do that, and so I'm curious to hear if like there are more out there. And
interesting. I haven't seen that. I have seen decks, and I have a couple here that I was going to show in a little bit that do alternate versions of existing cards. So like you can pick and choose. Though someone said recently that they use all of those in their deck. So they have 2 of those cards, or how many are in their deck. So
yeah, Benabel's deck. Thank you for saying that, because I had forgotten. She has like what, three different fools, and you choose the fool that you want before the reading as a sort of additional signifier. Yeah, you got a much.
What happened for me is that I ended up using the same copy of the Fool in the same deck every time. So I end up choosing the deck for my readings rather than the card. So you'll see here for the first edition, I use the Seeker. I just love this rose. And then for the Vitruvian, I use the Initiate. I love that little fox. You'll see.
Oh, I didn't even see the card. So focused on the snake. Oh goodness, right there in front.
He shows up in my Fool card as well. And then this is the Keeper, which was in the Revelation deck, and
that's the version that I have.
Thank you so much for being here and chatting with me today, and being a part of this whole process.
My pleasure.
To seeing you in person again soon.
I hope so. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye. And our next guest is going to be the one and only Maria Alves Hernandez. Thank you for being here.
Sorry, I'm muting myself.
There you
Hi,
go.
Thank you for having me again.
Yes, absolutely. Anytime. I just love your little short videos on Instagram when I see them. I'm sure they post other places, but that's where I always see them.
Thank you. Mainly on Instagram, because I am a disaster when it comes to keeping up with posting in several places.
Right, absolutely. So what's your hot take on extra cards in the tarot beyond the traditional system?
Beyond the traditional, and actually I'm going to be a bit shallow, but I can't be the only person that has ever bought a deck because of it has a pretty back, right?
Oh, I love backs. Oh, backs
so
are
what happens is I have a whole envelope full of things that come with decks. And I have separated my, my favorite first cards. For instance, this is from the Bohemian Cats Tarot. And this has a super beautiful back. This one as well. I just love separating these cards and sticking them to the wall, as you can see behind me. That's why I collect backs. And I have been given cards because of the backs by other people who don't have a use for them. So I am just a collector of pretty cards.
Yes, me too. I have a bulletin board covered with them in front of me of all of the card backs, as well as the extra cards that I don't really care for. Like say this particular deck, the Tarot Bot, did 4 additional major arcana. They called them the Con Man, the Anarchist, the Elder, and the Pit. And since there was no guidebook, you kind of have to like intuitively interpret them. And when I interpret them, inevitably, I feel like they're a part of the energy that's already in the deck. For me personally. So continue. Tell us about your extra cards.
Oh my! I just have this extra card. This is from the I don't never remember the entire name of the deck. The Baroque Bohemian Cats Tarot. This is a mini version. I love it. And actually, this is one of my favorite extra cards. It's called the Fortune Teller, and I love when it comes up because what it does for me, since I don't really have a guidebook for this, what this does for me is to bring in the perspective that you as a reader have gained throughout the years, seeing, people go through situations that might be repeating or similar. This is an invitation to bring that insight, that insight from the trade, let's say, into the reading, if that makes sense.
Sure, absolutely. There is a card similar to that in the Bonestone and Earth Flash called the Bruja,
Oh, that's
which
beautiful.
actually is actually the deck, one of the deck creators. Is pictured there. I've always felt like this kind of had the same energy, and to me, the fortune teller might also have the same energy as like a combination of the High Priestess and the Hierophant, or the High Priestess and the Magician. And so I sometimes will substitute this for one of those cards, but I've never been able to wrap my head around the idea of an additional major in my head. So personally, anyway. Thank you so much for being part of
Thanks
78
to
Cards in
you.
78 Weeks. It was
I love
great
your
meeting you
ears.
in person, and
And
I can't wait to see you again.
we will.
All right. Bye-bye.
Congratulations on your deck. Bye.
You too. All right. Our next guest is Amber Highland. Welcome. Editor of the Cartomancer, and also does several other things in her life. How are you?
I do. I'm doing great. The ears, you rock them like no one else. They are awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. So I thought this might be a good time if, since you're with me and you have had several articles by her, to share a card from the Pocket of Peers. One of the things that Jamie Sawyer did was she included teacher cards, and I thought it worth mentioning today for those of you who don't know, and all of us who are part of the tarot community know and have read many books by Rachel Pollack, author of 78 Degrees of Wisdom. She passed peacefully with her wife and friends surrounding her on Friday afternoon. And I thought we might take a moment of silence before we continue for her and her family. And then we'll talk some more about how people use cards in their decks. Blessed be. So, did you actually get to meet Rachel?
I did. I did get to meet Rachel a few times. One of my favorite times was the very first time we were at a convention, and I got into the elevator going up to my room, and she was going up to her room and was already in there. I stepped in there. She asked me how I loved it, how I was enjoying the weekend, and how my day was going. I said, "Oh, pretty well." I said, I have Rachel Pollack as like my captive audience. And she turned and looked in the mirror in the elevator and she went, "So do I."
That's a wonderful story.
So her humor was just something that's always stuck with me. And then working with the Cartomancer, I've had the pleasure of many times doing email exchanges with her, and they always would leave me in stitches, and very often would make me pause and think, because in the middle of whatever we were discussing, whether it was an article or anything, she would just put something so profound in there that I would just have to stop and step away from it and then go back and finish reading. So I will miss those times, and I cherish them.
Thank you so much for being willing to share with us about that. I just happened to see her picture behind you and thought it would be a good time to mention that. So, what is your hot take on extra cards in the tarot?
You know, I used to not like them, but over the years I've gotten very into them. And sometimes I will take them out and do very much, you know, like you, Maria, will, and I'll make collages, have them on my walls. And the card backs, I mean, that's a cool card back. Love the fun card backs. And what sometimes I've done is taken various ones from decks that are of at least close to the same size, and then I make my own divinatory system out of those extra cards, which is kind of fun. But there is something to it, even when they do it in Lenormand systems. And I'm not just talking like if they give you 2 women cards or 2 men cards, but sometimes they will add extra cards in there. And like Mitchell said, what I love about them is that when they turn up in a reading, they make me take that extra beat to stop. Because sometimes if I'm doing reading after reading, I almost get you kind of go and you just going. And those cards show up and it makes you stop and pause and rethink about what's really going on. And there are a few decks. Liminal 11 is famous for putting at least 2 extra cards in their decks. I've got Cosmic Slumber out. Yeah, and Cosmic Slumber, they have a morning card and an evening card.
Oh, wonderful. I like that.
Yeah, and you know, I laugh because the morning card, you know, that does not look like a morning person, and I am not a morning person. But this night card is the one that I really, if there's something, a question that I'm taking into my subconscious that I just want to let sit there, I might pull this out and then do the reading. And just really, then I have this image to help take me into my subconscious of my dreams to work that out. The other deck, Jamie Elliford's Triple Goddess Tarot, she has 2 Fools in that deck. So which one, you know, you can pick which one resonates with you more. That's one. That's the other one. And I do enjoy them. I just have fun when they pop up. Sometimes like this morning and night card, if somebody's saying, oh, when will this might happen? I can almost use that as a timing cue. But I have fun with them. I think they're fantastic.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for being part of 78 Cards in 78
I
Weeks.
love it. I'm so happy for you. This has been a lot of fun following everything.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I'm going to share the other teacher's card from the Pocket of Peers. I thought this was a great way to pay respect to our teachers. Those who've gone before us, who have given us all of this knowledge about the tarot. And I actually had a similar experience to you with Mary. She and I met going up and down the elevator at Northwest Tarot Symposium. And then at StarCon, we had just said hello at Newt's. And then at StarCon this year, she sat down with me at lunch and she's like, oh, can I have a French fry? And so I shared French fries with Mary Kay Greer.
Nice.
And we got to have a whole lunch together. It was wonderful getting to chat with her and getting to know her and share my cards with her. And so, yeah, I really liked the way that she did this in that particular deck. And the way that she used them was, you know, when you see these cards, it reminds you to go back to the source of knowledges that you have in your life, right? Whether it's this specific author or this specific author or another one, and read those books again, because you can always get something new out of those experiences and that knowledge.
Absolutely.
I hope you have a great week. Thanks for popping in.
Thanks so much. Have a great one.
Yes. All right. I have one more guest backstage, but they're back. All right. Our next guest is Jonathan Daly. Welcome.
Aloha. Welcome. Good morning. It's
good morning.
about 8 o'clock here. So
yeah. So how are things going for you?
pretty good. I had a little scare last week because last Sunday I picked up one of my neighbors from the airport, and then the next day she called to let me know that she tested positive for COVID. So
dear.
I had a little scare, but I didn't get it. Yay.
Well, glad to hear it. So a lot of times we get cards with decks that are art cards that are quite beautiful and serve
Right.
no other purpose than being beautiful. But sometimes they add extra cards, like this Atonement card from the Slow Tarot,
Hmm.
as kind of a extra major. What are your thoughts on that?
So I like the art cards. It took me a minute to get used to having extra cards in the deck. But once I wrap my brain around it, I realized that each deck that has one of those extra cards becomes slightly different because of that extra card. Sometimes it's just tongue-in-cheek, like the Modern Witch Tarot, where they have 2 Ten of Swords. One is everything is fine, right? And then certain decks, like the Tarot of Oneness, has 5 extra cards to the deck. They're just like extra Oracle cards. And I left them in there because they definitely have added to the readings, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
and I think my son is now hunting for eggs.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I won't keep you. I was going to just say, I know some decks, I don't actually have the deck, but they will add phases of the moon,
Mhm.
that type of thing, which is not part of the tarot traditionally. And that actually, I think, has good extra oracle content, just like you were talking about.
Right, right.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being part of 78 Cards in
Oh,
78
of course.
Weeks.
It's been a pleasure.
Popping in today, and enjoy the Easter egg hunts, and come back later and
Thank
watch
you.
the end of the video where you'll see
Oh,
all
I
the
will.
cards. All right.
Thanks,
Aloha.
Mary. Aloha.
So our next guest hopefully is a passenger and not a driver as they go down the road. Welcome, Taro Stash. Hi, Cheryl.
Hello, congratulations. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Yes, and there's Jeffrey's voice as well. Hello.
Okay.
So congratulations, we're thrilled, and I am not driving.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for all of your input and really just being the spark that got this whole series going, from doing the hashtag to encouraging me to invite people on my show. You've just been so supportive. And today we're talking about those extra cards that you get in decks. Like here we had 2 Hermits, and I can't remember the name of this particular deck. Or we had 2 Wheel cards. And then in the Slow Tarot, of course, we had 2 World cards. I like the tree, but the planets are nice too. So what are your thoughts on additional cards in the tarot?
Jeffrey and I were chatting about this. For things like spreads and card meanings and title cards, we like them to have a different back so that if they don't accidentally get mixed in to the deck, very practical for us. But I love the idea of extra cards. Personally, I love a couple of blank cards. And we also like multiple options for gender in the lovers. So, and you were showing one where there were a couple of fools, which is a great idea. So that was, Benabel, what do you have? Any thoughts?
The Spirit Keepers Tarot, yeah.
That's good. We talked about that. Yeah, we talked about that. I love, so long as the extra cards for like if they add a major arcana or something like that, so long as they make sense, and I can't see that meaning in another card in the deck.
Sure.
So, and were you talking about adding a 5th court card? Was that you?
No, someone mentioned that in certain decks they had added a 5th court card. I think in the Tarot of Dreams by Ciro Marchetti.
Yeah.
There is the palaces.
Yeah, talked about the palaces, yes.
Yes. And then I think that Kate Murrah mentioned there being fools for each of the suits in one of her decks that she showed us. And so, that's interesting to add extra cards in a suit. But
yeah, I think for us it needs. I mean, if it's passionate enough, where a creator has said that, then I need to have access to why that's there. Mm-hmm. Just give me some direction, like the 5-cent tarot.
Right.
That makes sense because it's on there.
Right.
So,
had the keywords. Or like in the Bonestone and Earthflesh, she did a whole guidebook entry about her card that she added.
Yeah.
I just didn't, even reading the guidebook entry, it didn't resonate with me as something that wasn't already in the tarot. So
sure.
you're probably all thinking, I know what side she's coming down on now. And I'm going to share what I did, because the only reason I did this was, one, I wanted to wrap up the whole series and show everybody the deck as I printed the test print this week. And, but also, you know, I got a wild hair one night and I started designing extra cards. And it started with this card, which was, of course, the Happy Squirrel, which is now become infamous because of The Simpsons. And if you have $1,000, there's someone who will tell you its true meaning. That's a joke. Don't pay anybody for the meaning of that card. Anyway, but in this deck, which is the Mystic Medleys, which is, I love this deck. I just really do love this deck, by Liminal 11 and Gary Hall. The Sad Squirrel was made the opposite, which is kind of interesting. So you have a happy squirrel and a sad squirrel. And I kind of went with this direction. I'm going to let you get back to traveling and conversing with Jeffrey, but I think I'm going to pop Marike and Kate back in and talk about what I did. But thank you for being part of this series and for popping in while you're traveling. I do appreciate it.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, let's see. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Spot here. I thought I'd bring you on while I talk about my cards that I did. I just got a wild hair one night, and I thought maybe I'll play with extra cards. And so this was actually the thing that started it was the Happy Squirrel, of course. And I thought, okay, what would that look like if I did a Happy Squirrel? Because obviously doing cards the way I'm doing it with Creative Commons imagery, I wasn't going to do art cards. And since I was doing a full guidebook, which I'll make available in PDF form, I wasn't going to do title cards or anything like that, or cards with spreads, because all that'll be in the guidebook, which everyone who buys the deck will have access to. And so I played with the ideas. And so let me show you what I did. So I started with this, which is just a happy squirrel, right?
Happy squirrel, yeah.
Right. And I was like, yeah, but that's kind of good cliche now. I think lots of people do the happy squirrel. And one of the reasons I went this direction was because I kind of like, if I was going to do extra cards, I kind of wanted it to be a FU to extra cards, because I just don't feel like they ever add anything. I mean, they can be fun and pretty, and I like the art and everything, but yeah, I was like, you know what, they kind of need to be an FU. And so I started thinking about how that might be portrayed. And so I created this card, which is the Southern way of politely saying FU, or also meaningfully caring for someone.
Yeah.
And I left our little squirrel print in the background. So that was the this would be the sugary way of saying, you know.
I love it. I think it's hilarious.
There's a meme that's going around, and I don't know that I've seen this card in any other decks yet, but I created the hand unicorn. You'll
I love that. I love that one so much.
She has this tattoo, and if you look really closely, it says Grace. So I just thought, you know, it's an elegant way of saying, you know, FU to cards like this. I feel like when I see those cards, the deck is telling me to like, just stop reading. Like, I already know the answer, and I need to just do what I know to do. I need to put the cards down and act, right? Rather than just keep on pulling cards. Because, I mean, there are readers who will do that. I mean, they'll read the same thing 4, 5, 6 times trying to get a different answer. And so that was kind of my thought. So what do you think of these guys?
I like it. So you go, Kate.
I love the pink. And especially in like what I'm remembering from your deck, most of the most of the people on the outlines and such are black. And so I love the color change here. I love the pink. I love how it takes my mind to how the queer community frequently just has to like give a big fuck you to social norms out there, and that would certainly be very resonant for lots of the people that I read for. I love it. I love the tattoo. I love how it frames the tree in the background. I love all of it. What were you going to say, friend? I'm sorry, I don't know your name. This is my first time meeting you.
That's fine.
Yeah, so
Nice
Marieke
meeting you.
Lexman is the author of the Madigan Chronicles, which is a series of books which are based on that are centered around the minor arcana and follow this family, the Madigans, and she's working on book 5 right now. Yeah, so she was at StarCon.
Yeah. Oh, we missed each other. Yeah, you weren't there. So
Yeah.
and I'm gonna miss Tide. So hopefully in the fall I can make it to Northwest Tarot Symposium. So I'm looking forward to that.
I hope to meet you there. That one's right down the street from me. So.
Oh, that should be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
But to come back to the cards, I really love them. I also, I think Bless Your, I just lived for a long time, for several years in New Orleans. So Bless Your Heart got a new meaning for me, being North American and living in the South. I learned a lot about that. So I think that's a brilliant way of saying it. And yeah, I really love that card. And yeah, the hand unicorn, I thought that was well found way of being polite and still giving thank you.
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah.
So the challenge with the extra cards is that my ideal version of the deck is linen in a 10, and that version of the deck right now, without contacting support, will only hold 78 cards. And so the logistics of trying to figure out how to include them, because if I do the 10 and the deck separately, it'll be even more expensive.
Yeah.
And I'm playing with different ideas because this is going to be print on demand. So I have thought about making it available in different formats. So like the cheapest possible format for those who want it, in shrink wraps in just their standard smooth finish, and those who want the one that how I envisioned it with the 10 and the linen cardstock. So I'm not sure if they're going to pop in yet, or if I'm going to print them as cards to give away, or how they'll appear, or if they'll appear. It's still kind of a on the fence thing, and it'll probably come down to what I can do with make playing cards. So thank you guys so much for joining me today, everyone who popped in and shared with us, and throughout this whole experience, all 79 episodes. Let's take a look at the deck as it appears in its current test print version.
Exciting.
All right. And that's a wrap, everybody. Thank you for being a part of 78 Cards in 78 Weeks. Look forward to seeing me again in July when I announce the live launch of the deck. Until then, everyone, good journeys.